Tonight on Business Live, Bank of Ghana justifies policy rate hike, insisting current inflation levels require extra measures to contain situation. We'll hear from the Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana.
Although inflation has decelerated marginally on 2 consecutive times, the level is still very high. The committee took that decision to move it to 29.5 to lock in the deceleration that has started.
Also in this bulletin, mobile money transactions in only 2 months in 2023 hit 264.1 billion cedis. Ahead, we will engage an analyst on that. We have details of these and many others coming your way in a moment. Please stay. This is Business Life with me, Pious Kojo Backah. On to our very first story. The Bank of Ghana has justified the significant hike in the policy rate. It follows criticisms of its decision to increase the key lending rate to commercial banks to 29.5%. Now, Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana, Philip Bredu Otu, insists the current inflation levels warrant some tough measures to control the situation.
Although inflation has decelerated marginally on 2 consecutive times, the level is still very high. The committee took that decision to move it to 29.5 to lock in the deceleration that has started. Looking ahead to the end of the year, we expect inflation to be around 29. We've set the policy rate at 29.5. And I think this move, which we did, was to set the monetary policy stance right by moving it to 29.5, which is where we expect inflation to be in about 11 months, 12 months from now.
Some would say that is quite high. With all the things that was done, why are we still not feeling the impact on inflation trending down faster than we thought? Can we say that then maybe the monetary has hit the ceiling and now the monetary, as in the inflation rate
Of what?
of current now, even end of year 20-something, is still high, and maybe the monetary measures is done, fiscal has to do its part.
Well, but George, if you have your inflation moving from 53 to 29 in 1 year, I think it's a steep drop. Yes, as the governor indicated in his explanations, the monetary policy will be working with the fiscal policy measures to try to get inflation down. He talked about signing the memorandum of understanding on zero financing, and that
some clarity on that.
And that is also an inflation control measure. Okay,
What have you got in terms of the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance? Is it just left with the appending the signatures?
No, it's just left with the appending of signatures. The statement rightly did indicate that we've worked with the Ministry of Finance to set that document in place. The 2 parties will just need to sign. So we need to move on the MOU, and then we need to move on the revenue measures which he spoke about.
Some would say that it could come with some real shocks for the economy in terms of a zero financing. In the past program, they looked at up to 5%. Has the Bank of Ghana thought through, whilst that may look good for the inflation numbers, there's also the real shocks of this to the monetary side of or the economic side or the fiscal side of the economy?
Well, so if you look at the budget is setting a lot of revenue measures, and that is why, again, the governor did indicate in his statement that we need to get the revenue measures passed to take away that burden away from the central bank. And when those revenue measures are passed into law and government begins to get in all those revenues that it needs, there will be no need to resort to central bank financing. So these are the reasons why.
All right, so let's move on to one of our headline stories. And we do know that the total value of mobile money transactions in the first 2 months of this year hit 264.1 billion cedis, which of course is about 72.6% growth year on year. Now, the significant growth shows that mobile money transactions are hitting record highs despite the electronic transaction levy. Now, in the first 2 months of 2022, total money transactions, recorded 153 billion cedis. Now, we are joined via Zoom by the country coordinator of CATS International, Kusi Apia Adumako, for his perspective on this. Grateful you could join me, Mr. Adumako. What do you make of this significant performance we are witnessing by way of mobile money transactions?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your viewers. I'd like to say that this is expected to happen. If you look at the last year budget, government decided to reduce the tariffs from 1.5 to 1%. And whenever tax rate goes down, there is a proportional increase in consumption of those goods or services. And so even should government even bring the levy down to, let's say, 0.5, a lot of people who are not comfortable with the 1% will still want to do the levy. So I think this is expected, and I think that people are getting used to it, and I'm happy that government is making a lot of revenue from levy, and people have kind of understood the need to use electronic services for money transaction.
In other words, we can say that the e-levy has indeed some way, somehow contributed to this growth we are witnessing, right?
Yeah, I would say that the 1%, the reduction in the percentage taxes on electronic charges is what has probably resulted in this particular increase in the uptake by consumers.
Now, going forward, how do you think we can sustain this growth and, of course, the momentum at which it's going?
I think government will need to look at its revenue forecast and see that if the reduction has brought a lot of tariffs, they can still decide to bring it down further again, let's say to 0.075. At that level, you see that a lot of Ghanaians who went off grid from sending Momo would want to use it to send Momo because now they find it to be cheaper now than in the past.
So I want to pick your thoughts quickly on this. There are some who still believe that we need to scrap the taxes on the levy. Do you still hold that view?
I think I am not a pro e-levy person. My views have been known since day one, and I've not changed it. But until Parliament repeals the act, I think the law is what it is, not what it ought to be. But I'm happy to see that the Ghana Revenue Authority has been doing a lot of revenue, getting a lot of revenue by instituting the electronic VAT invoicing and other practices, and also going for tax defaulters. And I know that what they are doing would kind of rake in more revenue. And once they rake more revenue, maybe government may decide to spare Ghanaians of our 1% on electronic charges, because levy is a nuisance tax. In 2014, the then Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, lambasted the then government and called some taxes as nuisance taxes. And seriously, levies and nuisance taxes in which that it shouldn't remain a permanent tax handle in this country. It may be used to solve a short-term deficit in our revenue projection, but it shouldn't become a permanent thing. Unfortunately, the thing is that in Ghana, when we are passing tax laws, when we are amending our taxes, we don't put sunset clauses in it. We keep it forever in perpetuity. Like, for example, the petroleum recovery levy and the toll recovery levy. Since 2001, we don't know how much has been accrued. And if we're even paying the whole debt of this universe, I'm sure by now, 22 years by now, we should have been able to finish paying. But now, the toll recovery levy has metamorphosed into another taxes. I think politicians also need to be very frank and truthful to Ghanaians that if you come to ask for a tax to solve a particular problem, once you are able to solve that thing, you need to take it off. Let's take, for example, the 1% COVID levy on VAT. Now COVID is gone. Of course, we are still not out of the woods yet, and we are still paying the COVID levy. We don't know how long it will be. We are paying even another 1% levy for environmental waste and what have you. But as to whether there's any benefit accruing to us for paying that thing, no one knows. I think for me, I've seen that government delights in introducing new taxes just to get money. But as to the purpose at which those taxes are introduced, we don't see it happening. Let's take, for example, the road fund. We pay a lot of money into the road fund through the fuel that we pay for, through the fuel that we buy. And now very soon the road tolls will come on stream. And yet you drive on the road and you see potholes and the roads doesn't have markings and all those things kind of pose dangers to road users and commuters. But then I don't know to what extent is the funds that we are paying are being used to address those specific things that government came to Parliament to ask the mandate of our parliamentarians to introduce, to bring about those taxes.
Well, maybe in the mid-year budget, they would come up with those reasons. But quickly, let me find this from you in a minute. How would you foresee these numbers going forward between now and the next quarter?
I think we expect the numbers to go up. And if you look at all the indications, for example, GRA revenue forecast, they have even overshot their revenue projection. And if you look at what the first 2 months of mobile money transaction, I think that it is indicative that the economy is coming back on stream.
All right.
And even if BIPs were to report their data, we'd also see how interbank transfer has also gone up within the first 2 months of the year.
We are grateful. Kusi Apia Dumako is the country coordinator of CATS International, sharing his perspective with us on the back of the performance of mobile money transactions for the first 3 months of this year. Let's stay a while longer in the telecommunication space because work has started on the Ghana ICT Hub, expected to develop the capacity of startups and help create more job opportunities for the youth, according to the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Eslo Wusuekufo. The hub will also provide SMEs with opportunity to leverage technology and contribute towards economic development. Well, she was speaking at the virtual sword cutting ceremony for the construction of the Ghana ICT Hub.
MTN Ghana, in collaboration with government, has cut the sword for the construction of a Ghana ICT Hub. The facility will cover a 4,000 square meter space and is expected to equip over 2,000 youth with digital and technological skills to drive economic development. Speaking at the sword cutting ceremony, Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Esla Owusu-Ekufu, said the hub will enhance the capacity of SMEs in the country to create more jobs.
We know the benefits that we can derive from it. It will create jobs, it will help us to deal with unemployment, it will enable our young people to acquire the necessary digital skills that they need, it will grow more startups in this space, and even the startups can be incubated and grown into larger companies that we're referring to as unicorns that will also employ others and generate multi-million-dollar businesses for us in this country. The whole world is going digital. With the right environment and space and opportunities provided for those who are willing to learn, the sky is the limit. And I do know that if we deliberately focus on this space, we can encourage and nurture more potential that we have in this area. We keep talking about the potential we have. We need to move beyond rhetoric and actually put in place the systems and structures that will enable us to generate activate that potential that already exists.
CEO of MTN Ghana, Seloma Dadivo, added that the hub will play an important role in developing and equipping the youth with the needed skills for the development of the space.
So our expectation is that the hub will be a place where entrepreneurs and as well as the youth can come and do a number of things. The first one is ICT skills training, and we're seeking to have a center that can support in-person ICT skills development. We see this as a gap amongst the youth and an important area for our competitiveness as a country going into the future. The second one is we also have a remote facility that allows people that are not in Accra to also gain skills through remote learning and other types of institutions. And this is important to us because we didn't want to limit the scope of the project only to the geography in which it's actually located. The third one is the support for entrepreneurs, where we will have centers that can incubate new ideas and new innovations, where we expect to see small startups growing their business ideas into something more viable through the support that we'll provide as part of the ICT Hub. But this will be focused on ICT ideas and innovations, and we're hoping that this will generate in the range of about 100,000 jobs in the first 3 years of the hub going live.
MTN Ghana is committing an amount of $25 million for the construction of the Ghana ICT Hub.
Now, Ghanaian businesses are gearing up to deepen relations with South African businesses through collaboration under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Now, Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, Dr. Humphrey Enyimdake, says the operationalization of AFTA is critical in harmonizing economic blocs in ensuring the promotion of intra-African trade. There is more in this report. Brand South Africa, in partnership with MTN, organized a business roundtable and dialogue session. The session focused on overcoming market entry and legislative challenges in the wake of the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Speaking at the event, Chief Executive of Association of Ghana Industries, Dr. Humphrey Enyimdake, indicated that the engagement is critical in boosting trade relations between the two countries.
Still very critical. I mean, it gives us the opportunity to harmonize policy, to reduce tariffs. The various economic blocs, SADC, ECOWAS, economic bloc will be harmonized, and then we'll deepen the intent of and the objective of AFTA so that we can trade together. We can deploy our regional economic bloc value chain policies that will aid Ghana and South Africa. What can we do together to conquer Africa and do the intra-trade as the mandate and agenda of AFTA is. It can only get better the more we engage. There'll be a few bottlenecks, but in every big vision, there are processes that you got to perfect each stage. And I think we're on course. It could be slow, but it's a matter of time. We'll get there.
General Manager for Communications at Brand South Africa, Thoko Modesi, said the Business Roundtable and Dialogue session is part of efforts by South Africa to better understand the rest of the continent and help in positioning it on the international market.
One of the things we know we are good at is the fact that we represent the continent on various platforms that other countries may not be. For example, we are a member of BRICS. We're the only African member of the G20. So ours is to carry the voice and the luggage and the people of the continent forward with us, so that if we're going to thrive, we must all thrive as Africans. It can't be that it's about South Africa and South Africa only. And a lot of the multinationals that are established in South Africa, I mean, for example, there's over 800 American companies based in South Africa. A lot of the times they start in South Africa, establish head offices there, then they expand into the continent, which is exactly what we are trying to do. We need to be that space that allows for development and thriving in the continent.
While longer in the SME sector, and Fast Forward Investment Ghana Limited has promised to continue to provide jobs for the Ghanaian youth. According to its Chief Executive Officer, John Onyanzuro, his outfit will engage more Ghanaians to support economic growth through the provision of quality goods and such as shoes and bags. Now, speaking to Joy Business at the first anniversary of the Clark stores in Ghana at Accra Mall, he revealed that the company will position itself to invest in other sectors of the economy.
It's massive. It's massive, and as you know, our market is an aspirational market. It's becoming quite sophisticated, and for all aspirational market, we look forward, to having brands that are global driven. And that's exactly what's happening in Ghana. Very frank with you, it's about positioning, and what we've done in the last couple of years. I mean, we've been in this market now for close to 20 years. Is to continue to go with the tide and to see what we can do to add value to the local economy. As you can see, the more stores that you have, the more you've got jobs for young Ghanaians who are ready to test waters and to grow their career. And that's what we're trying to do here. When you bring in things like this, it also helps the economy to grow. For us, that's the objective. Again, it has to do with, like I said, what you want. For us, it's key that we're in that global state where you can probably say, "Oh, I went to Europe and I saw a brand like this," and then you come down to Ghana, the same brand you can shop on Oxford Street, somewhere in Paris, somewhere in the United States. You can shop for the same brand, same quality. For me, it's the best thing that can happen to our environment. So back to competitiveness, it's about positioning, and what we're trying to do is to position the best brands here.
To the grace of the Almighty, I would like to declare this opening formally open.
More on SME development, Ghanaian fashion designers are making efforts to grow the fashion industry for job creation, but the competitiveness is hindered by foreign influences on the fashion-conscious youth. Love FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong explores the influence of foreign fashion on the youth and the impact on the local fashion designers.
Clothing styles and mode of dressing in Ghana in the early 17th were devoid of Western influences, but the arrival of the Europeans gradually influenced clothing tastes and styles. Dr. Cynthia Ekuyachichi at the Department of Industrial Art, Fashion and Textile Section, KNUST, tells how European influence invaded every activity in Ghana.
We call them African prints, but they did not originate from Africa. They were brought from somewhere by merchants. So they came in, introduced the fabrics to us. Because they were vibrant colors, we loved them, we accepted them to become our own. And the women who were the mediators, they gave them names that will resonate with us, and then we were buying them.
The foreign influence may have robbed the nation of its unique qualities that define the identity as a people. Post and pre-independence, the Ghanaian clothing style has become an adaptation of Western fashion trends.
Now you will see somebody with a bustier. Those bustiers are old people. They were just wrapping the fabric, and that is the ideas these things came from. So we've always known how to cover ourselves. We've always been fashionable people. But you see, sometimes we've been indoctrinated not to accept what we have. When it comes from the West, we think that is the best thing ever.
In 2012, Ghana could not pride itself on a vibrant fashion industry. This was due to poor finishing and non-conformity to standards and trends. Fashion designers like Senanu Alomenu have had their share of challenges, but remain consistent to deliver designs seen on runways and fashion events.
A lot of people have started patronizing more or less like some years ago when they didn't like it. But now, because of the ideas that we've come up with, a lot of people have interest in what we do now.
Local designers are steadily bringing a flair of varied designs to the fashion industry. This is because African prints are being showcased around the world.
Our styles has both the foreign touch of fabrics and then locally made fabrics. So we have styles we call denim Afrique. That is combined with the Western fabrics and then the locally made fabrics from, example, GTP, ATL, and the other ones.
While Ghana's fashion industry is gaining international recognition, there are more imports of clothing than what is exported. Research by the International Journal of Research and Innovation shows about 60% of Ghanaians wear imported second-hand clothing from Europe and the United States. Nana, a second-hand clothes seller at Asia, says her clothing business is lucrative as her target market has been swayed by foreign influences.
So, and no idea, when check on your 100 cities. I've turned to maybe a roughly 80 cities. I've pump maybe never 100 cities, and I'm saying 180. 180, no. No, big at 20 cities, and also at 50 cities. No to me, James Barco, no, you're not top Barqua. Osha, the Ain and Cadipaco be choosing.
Some respondents say they would prefer buying second-hand clothing to African print.
I like foreign clothes because they come cheaper. They come in cheaper. It is a meme pam on my move at the end of the and I'm 2 point something. Me kokroma jeans 90 series. Menya top 60 series. Let me to 4.
Aside the revenue it could generate, having a well-established fashion industry could have ripple effects that could even address the issue of graduate unemployment in the country.
To carve a Ghanaian look, fashion designers have been entreated to come up with creative designs to reflect the diverse culture of the Ghanaian population.
There are designers who are able to identify based on who you are, what you want to present to the world. They can get you nice fabrics that will resonate with your persona and then make them for you.
Fashion designers are coming up with more creative ideas. Much more people are really getting interested in what we do now.
Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
Thank you so much for being part of Business Live for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Always a pleasure serving you. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye-bye.